I need you to understand something before we go any further. You did not find this video. Instead, this video found you. I know that might sound like just another thing people say, but I want you to truly sit with it for a moment because there is a genuine difference between stumbling onto something and being led to it. What is happening right now in this exact moment, as you are watching this, is not a coincidence. It is not the algorithm at work. It is something far more precise than either of those things. Somewhere underneath all the noise of your day, you already know that you felt something when you saw the title. It was not exactly curiosity. It was something quieter than curiosity, and definitely heavier. It was a sense of recognition. It feels like reading the first line of something you wrote a long time ago and then completely forgot about. You have been carrying something lately. It is not the kind of heavy that other people can see on you. It is not the kind that earns you sympathy or requires an explanation. It is the kind that lives right behind your sternum, quiet and constant. You have gotten so used to it that you have almost stopped noticing it, but you notice it in the mornings. You notice it in the small pauses between one thing and the next, when the distractions finally run out and there is just you and the truth of where you are right now. You notice it when someone asks how you are doing and you say you are fine, even though you mean something much more complicated than fine. The truth. The real truth that you have not said out loud to anyone lately is that you are tired. You are not weak, you are not broken, and you are not falling apart. You are just tired. There is a very important difference between those things, and I need you to hear that distinction clearly. The story you have been telling yourself about what this tiredness means is not the whole story. It is not even close. You have been doing the work. Maybe you have not done it perfectly, maybe not without stumbling or backsliding, and certainly not without the occasional night where you let yourself feel things you told yourself you were done feeling. But you have been doing it. You have been choosing yourself in the small ways that nobody claps for, that nobody sees, and that never make it into anyone's highlight reel. Think about the moment you did not send the message you attempted to send. Think about the morning you got up anyway, even though staying in bed would have been so much easier. Think about the night you sat with something painful instead of running away from it, instead of reaching for your phone, and instead of filling the silence with anything that would make it stop. The choice you made over and over again to keep going, even when keeping going felt like walking through something thick, resistant and completely invisible to everyone around you. That is not nothing. That is not small. That is everything. The part of you that is exhausted right now is not the part that is failing. It is the part that has been carrying more than its share for much longer than it should have had to. I want you to know that that weight has been seen, even when it felt like it had not. Welcome to the 4th second, and I am your friend. Today I want to talk to you about what it means when a message finds you. I do not mean the surface version that sounds nice and gets shared as a quote on social media. I mean the real version. I mean the version that Carl Jung spent the better part of his life trying to articulate in a language that the rational mind could accept without flinching. Jung understood something that most people spend their whole lives resisting. He understood that the psyche, which is the deep, living, breathing intelligence of your inner world, is not passive. It is not just a storage unit for memories, wounds, and old conversations you replay at night. It is an active force that moves toward wholeness with a kind of relentless, quiet precision. It does not ask for your permission, and it does not wait for you to feel ready. When you are truly ready, in the way that only comes after real struggle, after real loss, and after something in you has been broken open and you chose to grow through the opening instead of closing around it, the psyche begins to orchestrate things. By the way, are you still not a member of our community? I really cannot believe that. It is completely free. You just join, and you get access to exclusive posts that I do not share anywhere else. There is nothing to pay and nothing to sign up for, just a free space where we go deeper together. The link is right there in the pinned comment. Go to it right now. I will be waiting for you on the other side. The psyche begins to arrange the conditions for your next chapter with a specificity that the logical mind will always want to call coincidence, simply because coincidence is more comfortable than the alternative. The alternative is that you are being guided. The alternative is that the life trying to reach you is actually reaching back. So, Let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with this question before you answer it, even if you are only answering it to yourself. What have you been trying to figure out all alone? I am seeing something very specific right now, and I want to name it carefully. There is a version of your life that you have been holding in your mind for a long time. You are not obsessing over it, and you are not desperately clinging to it, but you are just holding it. It is like the way you hold something precious and fragile when you are not yet sure whether to keep it or set it down. It is a version where something that feels currently unresolved finally becomes resolved. It is a place where something that has been suspended in the air between you and another person, or between you and a future you can almost see, finally lands somewhere solid. You have not given up on that version, but you have started to wonder quietly, in the moments when you are most honest with yourself, when the armor is down and the performance has stopped, whether wanting it still makes you foolish. You wonder whether the hope you have been tending to so carefully in private, against the odds and against the advice of the part of you that just wants to be safe, is actually wisdom, or whether it is just the last form your fear takes before it finally has to let go. That question, that exact question, is the reason this message found you today. The answer is that it is neither. It is neither wisdom nor foolishness. It is something more precise than both of those words can hold. What you are carrying is discernment in process. You are in the middle of learning the difference between hope that serves you and attachment that costs you. That is one of the most important lessons a soul can ever learn. It is almost never a lesson that comes clean. It comes messy. It comes in layers. It comes with setbacks that feel like proof that you were wrong to hope, and it comes with breakthroughs that feel almost too fragile to trust. You are right in the middle of that process right now. From the inside, that process does not feel like growth. It feels like being stuck. It feels like standing in a doorway, unable to go back into the room you came from and unable to move forward into the one that lies ahead. The room behind you is familiar, even though it hurt you. The room ahead is unknown, even though it is where everything you want is waiting. The doorway is uncomfortable. The waiting is exhausting, and you are doing it anyway every single day. Nobody is handing you a trophy for that yet, but you are doing it. Jung called this the transcendent function. This is the psychological process by which two opposing forces inside a person, like what you want and what you fear, or who you were and who you are becoming, or the past you are still holding and the future that is trying to reach you, begin to resolve into something genuinely new. It is not a compromise between the two, and it is not one side winning over the other. It is a third thing, a thing that could not have existed without the tension of both forces holding on at the same time. The transcendent function does not operate on your schedule. It does not happen when you decide you are ready, or when you have figured everything out, or when the circumstances finally align the way you need them to. It happens when enough of the old structure has dissolved to make room for what is coming. The dissolving is the part that feels like stagnation. The dissolving is the doorway. The pressure you are feeling right now is not the pressure of something ending. It is the pressure of something trying to be born. You are not stuck. You are in the middle of becoming. Becoming is the most disorienting place a person can live, because you are no longer who you were, but you are not yet fully who you are going to be. Most days you have to navigate the world from that in-between place without a map. I want to stay here for a moment because I think this is important, and I think you need to hear it said directly. The in-between is not a mistake. The in-between is not a sign that you did something wrong, that the universe has forgotten about you, or that you are somehow behind where you should be. The in-between is the work. It is the most important part of the whole process, and it is the part that gets the least acknowledgement because it is the part that looks from the outside like nothing is happening. People in the in-between look fine. They function, they show up, they answer messages, they meet their responsibilities, and they laugh at the right moments in conversations. And nobody knows. Nobody can see that underneath all of that, they are in the middle of a complete internal reorganization of everything they thought they knew about themselves, what they deserve, what love is supposed to feel like, what they are willing to accept, and what they are no longer willing to carry. That reorganization is happening inside you right now, and it is the most sacred thing about where you are. Now I want to talk about the other person, the one you have been thinking about. The one whose name lives in a specific part of your chest that you do not always have access to, but that opens sometimes without any warning at random hours in the middle of completely unrelated moments. It happens when a certain song comes on, or when a particular quality of light hits a room a certain way, or when someone says a word that you and that person once used in a way that belonged only to the two of you. I want to talk about them because they are part of this message too. They are not the center of it, because you are the center of it, but they are definitely in it. What I want you to understand about them might be difficult to receive if you are still in the part of this experience where the pain is loudest, where the unanswered questions still sting, and where the silence still has an edge. They are in their own process, a process they did not choose and cannot fully see from the inside, and one that they are not equipped right now to even name. That process is much harder than they are letting on to anyone around them. What is happening to them underneath whatever surface version of their life they are currently presenting to the world is a confrontation with the gap between who they have been and who the most honest version of themselves actually requires them to be. That gap does not close easily. It does not close through distraction, forward momentum, or by simply deciding to feel a different way. It closes through a reckoning, and that reckoning has a face. That face looks like you. This is not because you are their salvation, not because your healing is tied to their awakening, and not because you need to wait for them to figure themselves out before you can move forward. It is none of those things. It is simply because you represented something real in a season of their life when everything else was just performance, management, and carefully maintained distance. The realness of what you brought, the specific quality of presence, depth, and genuine attention that you offered them did not disappear when the connection did. It just went underground. Underground things have a way of making their presence known. They grow toward the light whether the surface allows it or not. I am not telling you to wait for them. I want to be absolutely clear about that because I know how easy it is to hear something like this and turn it into permission to put your life on hold. That is not what this is. What I am telling you is something more important than any instruction about waiting, not waiting, reaching out, or staying silent. I am telling you that the version of you who is rooted in her own becoming, the version you are building right now quietly in the exhausting in-between, is doing the work that nobody sees, nobody validates, and nobody celebrates. That version of you is not in competition with love. She is the condition for it. I am talking about the real kind of love. The kind that does not ask you to make yourself smaller to fit inside it. The kind that does not require you to hold your breath, monitor yourself constantly, or translate yourself into something more digestible for someone else. It is the kind of love that can only find you when you are standing fully in the truth of who you are, without apology, without performance, and without the low hum of anxiety that comes from needing someone else to confirm that you are worth staying for. You are closer to that version of yourself than you have ever been, even if it does not feel that way right now. In fact, it is especially true because it does not feel that way right now. The moments just before a real shift almost always feel like the opposite of a shift. They feel like stagnation. They feel like the universe has gone quiet and forgotten your coordinates. Jung wrote about this in a way I return to often. He observed that the most significant changes in a person's psychological life rarely announce themselves in advance. Instead, they arrive preceded by a period of inattention. It is a period that the person experiencing it almost always misreads as failure, as regression, or as proof that nothing is working, when in reality it is the necessary pressure of transformation, completing the work it needs to complete before the new thing can emerge. The cocoon does not feel like becoming, it feels like being trapped. And then, one day, the walls give way. You are not failing. You are simply under the kind of pressure that precedes transformation. That pressure is specific and purposeful. It has been building exactly as long as it needed to build. Every moment of it has been doing something inside you that you will only be able to fully see in retrospect from the other side, when you can look back at this chapter and understand what it was preparing you for. But I want you to trust something right now in this moment, before the perspective of hindsight is even available to you. I want you to trust that the quiet work you have been doing has not been wasted. The mornings you showed up for yourself have been registered somewhere that truly matters. The choices you made in private, when nobody was watching and when there was no reward except the small dignity of doing the right thing for yourself, those choices have been building something. They have been building something real and something that is almost ready. There is a specific thing I want to say to you about the person you have been thinking about. I want to say it carefully because I think it matters, and I think it is easy to misunderstand. They are being changed by your absence. It is not in a dramatic way that they would necessarily name or articulate, but in the quiet way that real change always happens, underneath the surface, in the part of a person that they do not have full conscious access to. The version of you they carry in their memory is not a static image. It is alive. It responds to who they are becoming. It asks questions of them that the old version of them did not have to answer. It sits in the corner of their awareness in the middle of ordinary moments, and it does not move, it does not speak, and it does not need to, because its presence alone is the question. The question is, who are you choosing to be? Are you choosing it consciously? Is the life you are building the one that is actually yours, or is it the one that felt safest to choose when you were most afraid? Those are not comfortable questions, and they are not asking them willingly. Nobody goes looking for that kind of reckoning. It finds them the way this message found you. And that reckoning has your name on it. It is not because you did anything to cause it, and not because you owe them your healing, your patience, or your openness to whatever version of themselves they eventually arrive at. It is simply because truth does not go quiet just because someone decides to stop listening to it. It gets louder. It gets louder in exact proportion to how hard a person works to suppress it, and they have been working very hard, which is beginning to show. But here is what matters. Here is the thing I need you to hold on to, past this video, past today, and past whatever happens next between you and this person or between you and yourself. Your healing cannot be contingent on their timeline. Your becoming cannot be parked in the waiting room of someone else's process. That is not a rule someone made up. That is a psychological law. The self that is trying to emerge in you, the whole, rooted, sovereign version of you that this entire chapter has been building toward, cannot fully emerge while it is organized around waiting for someone else to catch up. It needs you. It needs your full attention, your full investment, and your full belief in your own story as the primary story. You are not the supporting role in someone else's arc. You are the lead, the author, the one who decides what happens next. And the beautiful thing, the thing I want you to feel somewhere underneath the logic of all of this is that the more fully you step into that role, the more you become the person that the right version of the right connection can actually find. You are not making yourself unavailable by healing. You are making yourself findable. You are not moving on by becoming whole. You are making yourself worth moving toward. There is a version of this story where everything you have been holding on to, working toward, and refusing to give up on comes together in a way that you cannot currently see from where you are standing. It is not because it is guaranteed, nothing is ever guaranteed, but because you have done the kind of work that tends to produce that kind of outcome. The universe, whatever you believe about it, tends to respond to the energy of someone who has decided to be real. It responds to the person who has decided to stop performing and start living, who has gotten quiet enough to hear what they actually want, and who is brave enough to keep wanting it even when the evidence is not cooperating. I want to speak now to the part of you that is scared, not the part of you that is strong. That part is doing fine. That part has carried you this far and will carry you further. I am talking to the part that is scared, the part that wonders at 2 or 3 in the morning, in the specific dark that only exists between those hours. Whether you have already waited too long, hoped too much, or given too much of yourself to something that did not know how to receive it. The part that sometimes thinks the real mistake was not this person, or that choice, or that moment, but something more fundamental, something about you, about the depth of what you feel, and about the fact that you love with everything, which has never seemed to protect you from anything. I want to speak directly to that part, and I want to say this slowly and clearly. You have not made a mistake by feeling what you felt. You have not made a mistake by wanting what you wanted. The depth of your feeling is not the problem. It has never been the problem. The only thing that would be a mistake right now, the only real error, is deciding that what you are capable of is a liability rather than the most extraordinary thing about you. Because it is not a liability. It is not a flaw. It is the specific quality of your soul that makes the right love, when it arrives, not just possible, but inevitable. And the right love is not afraid of depth. It is built for it,